Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. We got a lot of new listeners. We're coming on every day, so let me just quickly introduce you to my psychic sidekick, because you're wondering, what is this guy all about? Well, I speaks to the fishes. They call me the old salty dog. A lot of different things. Just don't call me late for supper, as they say. But this is my psychic sidekick, Billy Bob Bass. He keeps me straight here on the show. And he has a Twitter following, by the way. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1, and mine is at John Martin Talks. Well, what we do pretty much every day is we have a word or phrase of the day, and today is no different. Our word of the day is fear. Yes, fear. We have nothing to fear but fear itself, right? That's Franklin Roosevelt, by the way, which I'm afraid Ocasio-Cortez actually got a bit wrong, because we talked about this yesterday, but man, she's the gift that keeps on giving. Never fear. I always can say AOC, man, because she turned around, if you remember I said yesterday, she actually claimed that the Republicans, they passed, I think it was the 22nd Amendment, but don't hold me to that, that because they did it, limited the president to 2 terms because they feared Franklin Delano Roosevelt and they didn't want him to get reelected. Now, never mind the fact that they passed it 2 years after he was dead, but of course, Democrats, man, not only apparently do they vote, I mean, maybe Ocasio-Cortez, maybe she's right. I fear she's right. So, you know, that we know that Democrats and Walking Dead Republicans like John McCain can continue to vote long after they're dead, so maybe dead presidents can come back. You know, where's Ronald Reagan?
You shall not have died in vain.
I'm not quite dead, sir.
I'm not quite dead. I can see Franklin Roosevelt saying, I'm not quite dead, you know, even though he was dead 2 years by the time they passed it, and I think like 4 years by the time it was actually enacted. But, you know, facts, I fear that they're irrelevant. But anyway, back to the word of the day, fear. An unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous. So people might fear me because I'm like dangerous. Not like Carlos dangerous, but I'm dangerous. Likely to cause pain or threat. So I have to tell you, I might cause you, if you're a snowflake, some pain or threat of melting today. Because, you know, I said this yesterday, but I'm going to say again, I am not going to be politically correct. Matter of fact, I think as I get a little older and a little grayer, I'm probably going to be less and less if I ever was politically correct. So if you're afraid of political correctness, fear not. This first story comes from Politico, and my little subtitle is Fear When the Truth Will Not Set You Free. You know, they're always saying, the truth will set you free. Well, not if you're some of these Democrats, man. Not if you're like James Comey, because believe me, the truth will not set this dude free. But he's not afraid. He said, I'm not afraid of investigations. Politico article. Comey says he fears possible counter-investigation after Mueller report, but he goes on to say that he's not afraid. He just fears for the country. They're all doing it for the children, for the country. He fears for the country. You know, he's pretty well set, right? He's got a big pension, got a book deal that no one's buying, but he got paid up front. So, but he doesn't fear for him. He's just afraid for you. He's afraid for you and what, you know, what an investigation of him and the wildebeest might do to you. So never fear, Comey is here, at least until he gets sent down the river. Former FBI Director James Comey on Tuesday condemned President Donald Trump's call for a possible investigation into how Special Counsel Robert Mueller's Russia inquiry started, adding that it creates a troubling precedent. I wonder why would it create a troubling precedent? And trouble for who? Let's think about that as we move on. Who could this possibly cause trouble for? During an interview with CNN's Christiane Amanpour, I hope I said her name right, she's pouring out something. Comey was asked about whether he feared possible counter investigations. He says, I don't fear it personally. I fear it as a citizen. So as a citizen, he fears for this great nation that the worst thing that could probably happen, it might bring us to our knees if we investigated the investigators. He said, right, investigate what? Investigate that investigations were conducted. What would the crime, I love this sentence, what would the crime you'd be investigating be? So it's a terrible cycle to start. What would the crime be? I mean, now that coming from Comey and his crowd is rich, man. I mean, they literally have been conducting a 2-year investigation of the president when they knew for a fact there was no crime. See, that's probably the biggest crime at all, because make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, the people, now some people out there might be duped by this. I don't think many of my listeners will be. But I hate to tell you this, the people like Comey, Pelosi, the whole Democratic progressive side, they knew that this was a bullshit investigation. You know, Trump said, well, how long will the Democrats keep up with this bullshit? Forever. Forever, I fear. But they knew, that's the thing that's really, they knew it was a hoax from the very beginning. CNN, which never investigates, even though they have CNN investigates, they knew it was BS a long time ago. You know, you really believe that Rachel Maddow really believes in her heart of hearts that President Donald Trump is a Manchurian candidate and a puppet pocket for Vladimir Putin? Do you really believe that? I mean, I think, isn't she like an Ivy League grad, I think? I'm pretty sure she is. But really, Rachel Maddow, she's many, many things, but stupid is not one of them. Dumb is that she's a bright child, man. She really is. But so you really believe, now some of these dupes out there, some of these snowflakes that are going, I'm melting. I mean, they may believe it, but none of the people that have been pushing this storyline actually believe in the Russian collusion delusion. They're not delusional. They're just doing it for political purposes, which is the worst purpose of all. But Comey, what crime could they possibly see? Man, this guy, they got some cojones, man, I tell you. So you got to give them that. They got truck nuts, the Democrats. Several days after Attorney General William Barr released his summary of the Mueller report, Trump and his team have called for investigations into how the probe began. Well, let me tell you, Mr. President, you're wasting your time on one sentence. Now, if you want to get her where they lock her up, did you see in this interview, Christian Amanpour, I hope I say her name correct, she actually alluded to this term, lock her up, where people were chanting it at Trump rallies, that maybe the FBI should have went in there and arrested them on hate speech. She actually said that. Check out the video. But let me just tell you, Mr. President, far be it from me to tell you what to do, but it's like I tell people about the county commission. I ran for county commission and I used to be mayor of my little hometown. And we got about the most liberal, progressive city and county commission on the planet here. And I tell people all the time, hey, I don't mind. If you want me to go give them hell, I'll do it. Or if you want me to go up there and just make a point, like in public speaking, I'll do it. But if you want me to go up there and try to change hearts and minds of that commission, I ain't doing it, because it is a waste of time. So if President Trump is actually wanting them to investigate so that maybe they will lock her up, hey, I'm with it, man. But if you want to know how the probe began, the probe began because the president is guilty. He's guilty of the worst crime in the history of presidential politics. He won. That's all that matters. This collusion delusion is none other than a response to you, President Trump, for winning, and for you, MAGA hat wearing sons of guns out there, for voting for that guy, including me and Billy Bob, by the way. He didn't vote for him. I don't want to let me put out a caveat so we don't get in trouble here. Billy Bob did not vote. Did he influence mine? Quite possibly so. But Trump told reporters, hopefully somebody is going to look at the other side. Now, sir, I find myself questioning the president more than usual on this. Because let me tell you again, Mr. Trump, if you're listening, because he did use my bullshit thing the other day, right? I've been saying that for a while. So maybe JMT, you know.
The Democrats have to now decide whether they will continue defrauding the public with ridiculous bullshit.
Yeah, I've been saying that for a long time. So he basically stole my quote. But you may use it. No royalties are needed. You know, I'm paid enough by Even though I hadn't been paid yet by Vladimir Putin or Rosie O'Donnell. I'm pissed about that because she said that we were being paid by Vladimir Putin to go to rallies. But anyway, he says here, Trump says, hopefully somebody is going to look at the other side. Mr. President, as I say, far be it from me to enlighten you, but there is no other side. There is no other side. There's no double standard. There's only one standard. There's a standard for conservatives and anybody who supports Donald Trump. There's a standard for that. But there's no standard for the left. I mean, like when Rudy Giuliani had the audacity of hope, so to speak, to ask Chris Comey to apologize. And he goes, never, never. I mean, there's no other side. There's their side and there's the truth, which is on, I guess, our side. But they don't care about that. They have no fear of the truth because they're trying to hide the truth. But because the truth, see, I guess they do fear the truth because the truth, as I say, will not set them free. You could maybe we ought to do a T-shirt about that. I've been thinking about that. Maybe we put like a Mount Rushmore of the Democratic Party and say the truth when the truth will not set you free. Would you like something like that? Maybe we'll produce it here. But Trump continued. He said, I hope they now go and take a look at the origins of the investigation, the beginnings of the investigation. You look at the origin of the investigation, where it started, how it started, who started it. Mr. President, please, sir, please get a grip. Who started it? Look at the origin investigation. The origin investigation was a total lie. You know it was, sir. I'm joking with the president. I kid our president a little bit here and there because he is, we got to have a little bit of comic relief because, man, who has gone through more hell than the president of the United States? I guess Jesse Smollett when he was attacked by them Nigerian MAGA hat wearing. I mean, think about it. You get attacked by Nigerians wearing MAGA hats and whiteface. That's pretty freaky. On the coldest night of like in history. I mean, no one. I'd be scared of that myself. But Mr. President, man, get a grip, man, because he said, I hope they go now and take a look at the origin investigation, beginnings investigation. Look at where it started. It started with PP. It started with OP. That they lied about you, I've said all along, and I said this a couple of weeks ago on the show, but if I say it, it bears repeating. You know who's the most pissed about the whole Mueller report and how it started with the PP dossier and all that? You know who is the most pissed about this? It's got to be Bill Clinton, because I'm sure that he had a conversation with Hillary going, you mean you could hire people to pee on you in Moscow and you didn't tell me about it? I was over there making all that money off them speeches, bored out of my mind, and I could have had some Russian peeing whores on me, brought to me by an MI5 or 6 or whatever the hell they are over there in England. A spy could have brought me some pee and whores on me, and you didn't let me know, and you paid $10 million. Think of how many pee and holes I could get for $10 million. So I'm telling you right now, President Clinton, not you, lady. You'll never be a President Clinton, Hillary Clinton. You might be President of California, but your husband, I feel for Bill. He's got to be pissed about that, because think about that. Your wife could have provided you with all that coverage, so to speak, and she left you out. Man. But it goes on to say here, whenever it's former FBI Director Andrew McCabe or Comey, this is what the president goes on to say, is whether it's former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe or Comey or a lot of them, where does it go? How high in the White House did it go? And he's not talking about his White House. Well, I can't believe how hard I'm going to be on the president today, so you may be, but how dare you, sir? How dare you, President Trump, insinuate or even imply that it or anything else is the responsibility of the Obama administration? How could you possibly imply that? I mean, really? Just because all of this happened during Barack Obama's watch, you want them to be held accountable? You actually are asking, sir, you sincerely believe that the swamp is going to hold Barack Hussein Obama accountable? I fear not. So, I mean, come on, man. I'm with you, sir. Don't get me wrong. I wish we could wave a magic wand and they could lock them all up. But I know you're trying to drain the swamp, But I was watching like that. I never really watched that show, Swamp People, but there's like a trailer for it now on History Channel or whatever. And that one Cajun guy's up there going, "We've seen alligators where we've never seen them before. They're coming after us, and we got to get them." I mean, believe me, the swamp, man. As much as you're trying to drain it, and God, I hope, Mr. President, we give you another 4 years to drain it. Maybe you're the only one that can get it done. There's no doubt about it. But that swamp, man, has been festering for a long time, and the rats and the gators are big, baby. They big. They're coming for us. Comey condemned the president's rhetoric of calling for the locking up of his political opponents, including people like me. Didn't the president say he was going to let Hillary Clinton go? Now, a lot of people chastise, but didn't President Trump, didn't he say he's going to let Hillary Clinton go? He wasn't going to do it. But Comey is like bringing it up. You know, maybe he should have locked her up. But Comey says, I like what he says, locking up his political opponent, including people like me. Imagine that. Little old me. Little old 6'8" innocent me. I mean, come on. But Comey went on to say, it will just be more of that dangerous step, and I would hope, although he will continue to disappoint me, the Republicans will finally stand up and say that kind of thing. So in other words, they get on the side. Let me tell you, Mr. Comey, you got a lot of things to fear. Like the truth, you should fear the truth. But I wish I was wrong on this, but you don't have to fear the Republicans. Not the current batch. Trump, yeah, he's one thing, and there's a handful. I shouldn't throw all of them into the same thing. But the only thing you got to fear from some of these Republicans is like they're when their balls fly off and they're like flying in there because they don't have the nuts to actually do what they need to do. Because the Democrats, we know what they're about. That's why I'm harsh on some of my Republican brethren, man, because they, as I said, for Christmas gift, and I guess now you could do it for a spring cleaning gift or something, the Republicans in Congress need a set of gonads, man, because they don't have any. I'm telling you now. In general, there are some exceptions. The former FBI director, however, maintained that he will be willing to answer questions if the investigation were open. Me personally, he says, ask me questions, read my book, and go ahead. Go ahead. I would. Hey, Mr. Comey, you want to promote your book? I mean, come on. Right. Come on, we'll talk about it. Listen, I'll ask you questions, sir. But he says, me personally, ask me questions. Go ahead. I'd like to answer them in the daylight if I could. If I could. He's admitting basically that he's a rat because he said, I'd like to answer them in the daylight. But you know, these rats, we don't really care much for that daylight. I mean, you know, between me being the rat that don't want to be in the daylight and old Shifty Shift, that gay vampire dude, you know, he don't want to see the light of day. I mean, these guys, man, they are night walkers without a doubt. But so anyway, it's going to be interesting to see Mr. Comey. The only thing you have to fear is truth itself, because it won't set you free, brother. I guarantee you that. All right, we're going to move on, man. Here's a short story I'm going to do for you, and my subtitle to it is Nothing to Fear in Chi-Town. We got a black friend. We got us a black friend, man, in Chi-Town. And the reason I say that is because the way the media is covering like this new mayoral election in Chicago, where you had a choice between someone from the left and someone from further left, and two black women, so you were bound to have a black woman mayor of Chicago. And I don't know enough about either one of these people to get too deep into the coverage because I really haven't followed it. Because, I mean, you know, one thing you knew, they were both progressives, and one of them was going to win, and nothing's going to change unless I fear it gets worse. But the way the media is covered it, man, it's like, hey, here's my black friend. You know, I got me a black. I mean, it's just stupid, man. But Lori Lightfoot, elected Chicago mayor, will be the first black woman and the first openly gay person to hold the post. Wow, she better be running for president. She got to be running for president. I mean, the media, God, think about the media, man. They are in a state of nirvana. I mean, if I understand the word correctly, nirvana, man. I mean, who checks more boxes than this gal? She's black, she's female, she's progressive as hell, and she's gay. I mean, oh my God, why don't they? This woman should catapult to the front of the jackasses right now. I mean, and like I say, I don't know anything about her, man, but I know one thing. She checks every dadgum box. City, here's the thing. Both of these candidates, I did watch a little bit of video and stuff on them over the last. They both literally, now keep this in mind before I say this. Chicago is basically going bankrupt. I mean, their pensions, their police pensions, all their pensions are like in the billions underwater, so to speak. And, you know, if there's a more dangerous place to be than some of the neighborhoods in Chicago, I mean, where? I mean, only maybe in like Tijuana is it worse. Because you just see where Tijuana, by the way, is now had over 500 murders just this year. And how far are we into the year? And I'm not April Fool. Over 500 murders in Tijuana just this year. But tear that wall down. Not only don't build a wall like Nancy said, but Mr. President, tear down this immoral wall and let that 500 murders double over here in San Diego. So you people in San Diego, you should really be for Nancy Pelosi, right? Tear down the wall. It's immoral. But so the city of Chicago is basically going broke, and people are fleeing. Anybody who can get the hell out of Illinois, especially Chicago, with money, they're leaving. So I don't see how they're going to solve this. And both of these candidates, so children are dying in the street, the city's going bankrupt, and both of these candidates were saying that one of the most important things that Chicago has to offer is it's a sanctuary city. I mean, they literally had the audacity to actually say that's one of the great things. And they both got in a debate over who would double down the most on whether or not it's a sanctuary city. So we're going to play a short video of the lady that actually won, a report of her winning last night, and we'll talk a little bit more about it.
Time voters in Chicago have elected an African-American woman to be that city's next mayor. Lori Lightfoot beat Toni Preckwinkle in a runoff election. She claimed a resounding victory with 74% of the vote. The former federal prosecutor will also become Chicago's first openly gay mayor. During her victory speech, Lightfoot thanked voters for creating a, quote, movement for change.
Together, we can and will finally put the interests of our people, all of our people, ahead of the interests of a powerful few.
Lightfoot will...
Yeah, I just thought of something too, Lightfoot, because I say I don't know that much about her, but she sounds like she may be more Indian than actually Pocahontas, Liawapa, Elizabeth Warren, the whitest woman in America. So you might check off another box. I really don't know. But she says, you know, we're going to save Chicago, you know, and we're going to give voice to the voiceless. They always say anybody talks about giving voice to the voiceless. Think about that. I mean, they always say that. But the only one who's really given voice to the voiceless recently has been Trump. I mean, Trump's given voice to us dregs and deplorables, right? And we didn't think we had any. But don't fear change. Chicago, what's the worst thing that could happen? Don't fear that you got the first. I mean, you got a black friend now. Laying all jokes aside, it is a big deal that a city like Chicago elects a African American woman, gay woman. I make jokes about it, but I don't make jokes about the accomplishment of the person. So some people chime in and say such shouldn't be mocked. I'm not really mocking her. I'm mocking sometimes I have to explain my mockery. I just want to make sure you understand that my mockery is of the system that elects her, the politics of this person, and expect that something really going to change. Like she's saying, change. Democrats are always promising change. Now, they never promise any change you can actually spend, but that's another story. But she said, so I say, what's the worst? These are my words. What's the worst that could happen to you, Chicago? You become more progressive? I mean, because that's what's happening here. You had a choice between a progressive and more progressive. And they voted 74% for the most progressive person. So the real choice was you had one woman that was running who was like an alderman. She actually had political standing. She had won and served. Whether she'd served well, I have no idea. And so your choice was between an experienced progressive or a progressive with no experience. Of course, we elected one to president from Chicago, so who the heck knows? So only thing I say to Miss Lightfoot, and I'm always trying to help. You know, here at JMT, one thing about me, love it or hate it, you have to admit, I'm always trying to help. So I just want to help her right off the bat. If she's wondering how they could solve some problems, she needs to contact San Francisco. She needs to call San Francisco, because if Chicago goes any further to the progressive left, they're going to need to know how you made that poop map in San Francisco, because I guarantee you, if they go the way of San Francisco, they're going to need it, the poop and the needle mat. So you have nothing to fear except piles of poop, maybe. Anyway, we're going to move on. Congratulations to Chicago. As my dad used to tell me all the time, we get the politics and the politicians we deserve. And from what I see in Chicago, you have chosen well. Next story here, my little subtitle is, Have No Fear, the Never Trumpers are here. Have no fear, the Never Trumpers are here. This is also from Politico. I'm on a Politico roll here lately. Trump punts health care until after 2020. So, you know, the AF, that American Football Alliance Conference, that league might have folded yesterday. And my old buddy Steve Spurrier, he was a national champ in that, or the champion of that, because they were 7-1, but they're gone now. But so they may have folded, but health care, Trump's not, he's punting it. I guess he's taking, I'm punting it. I'm going to punt it down the line and not kick the can down the road. But they make it sound like the president is just, you know, he makes a big headline, he puts it off. He don't know what he's doing. He crazy. Even the Republicans are going, President Trump, man, you're crazy. And he's crazy like a fox, man. But anyway, so let's get on with this story, because I think you'll see what I'm talking about. President Trump signaled Monday that congressional Republicans would wait until after the 2020 elections to vote on a GOP replacement for Obamacare, putting off a presumably savage legislative battle on the hot-button campaign issue until after his re-election. Well, I hope the re-election actually does happen. But a savage battle. Were they really going to have a savage battle? I mean, give me a break, man. How are they going to have a savage battle? You actually have to have in order to have a savage battle, you have to have a group of people that like hate each. You have to have like MMA, right? Two guys up there hating each other and do all that. Can you really believe that Mitch McConnell is going to line up and like stare down Nancy Pelosi? I mean, you know, she going like that. Ugh. I mean, you got old. So you really, what do you say, Jay? Go ahead.
I said while she's sitting there shaking. Yeah,
I mean, think about the stare down. You got old turtlehead McConnell. I got a turtle head poking out. That's how he look. Like that. How did he talk about it? He says, you know, you got to, what did he say at that Rotary dinner or whatever a while back in Kentucky? He said, Donald Trump just doesn't know how the legislative process works. You can't get in a hurry up here. Well, I guarantee you, McConnell doesn't look like he's in a hurry, man. I don't know. So you got old Turtlehead against Plastic Face Pelosi, and they're going to that smackdown of the century. Turtlehead versus Plastic Woman. I mean, I can see that right now. A savage battle. A savage battle. You see where Nancy Pelosi yesterday, man, it's a side story. Nancy Pelosi was talking about Biden and whether or not his kissy-feely huggy. Of course, a couple more women have come out on Biden now. We're not even going to really talk about that, but because, I mean, really and truly, we did that Google search yesterday, and if you do a Google search of creepy Biden, there's more than one woman out there. It's like, there's like a platoon of them, man. It's like unbelievable. But Nancy Pelosi was asking this news conference by Politico, I think, by the way, that about Biden's troubles, right? And first thing she said was, well, I'm a arm extended person, so I don't let nobody get close enough to me, you know, because you imagine kissing that face, man, you get stuck to it, like, you know, it's that melting plastic or whatever. But there's pictures of her kissy hugging and feeling on Biden as well. But you gotta love this stuff, man. She actually gave advice because she was asked if this disqualified Biden from running for president. She said no, absolutely not. And of course, with the Democratic Party, I don't know what would get you to not be qualified for president. I mean, wearing like a MAGA hat, maybe. I don't know. But Pelosi literally looked in the camera and said, "I would advise Mr. Biden to act like he's got a cold." In other words, you know, I can't, when you say, I'm going to hug somebody, and they go, oh, I got the flu, you better not get it. So Biden needs to act like he's got the flu everywhere he goes and like keep that distance from him. I just thought it was funny as hell. But anyway, but a savage battle, man. Back to the savage battle. Progressives have already won this deal. They've already won the medical thing right now. Now, it may change depending on Supreme Court. We'll talk about that in a minute. It may change depending on what actually happens in the 2020 election. We'll talk about that. But, I mean, what are you talking about fear? And what they got to fear? The walking dead of like John McCain? I mean, I mentioned John McCain. Oh, my God, come down on me. You said something negative about John McCain. I didn't really say anything negative about him, but I'm about to. John McCain, man, is walking dead, brother. He's a zombie. I mean, he is still eating at the flesh of America right now because this battle would have been won and over with except for McCain, man. He literally almost came from the grave, laying all jokes. Supposedly he was like laying in the state of Arizona dead, and he popped up and go, I got a chance to attack Trump one more time before I die? Yeah, I'm coming. It don't matter what, man. Luckily he was able to. Yeah, I'm sorry, Megan. As someone who had a famous father, I'm sorry, Megan. But your daddy, man, whatever. Anyway, McCain, man, I don't know if we'll ever get through it. One thing about it, this guy now with Pelosi crowd and the progressive left is one of the most popular Republicans that have ever lived. Oh, because he did. That's why ever lived. Because one that lived. John, seriously, laying all jokes aside, when the history books come out about John McCain and his political side, he will go down as one of the greatest senators in the history of the Democratic Party. I have no doubt about that. But the president tweeted, oh my God, here's something to fear. Your president tweeted, everybody agrees that Obamacare doesn't work. Premiums and deductibles are far too high. Really bad health care. Even the Dems want to replace it, but with Medicare for all, which would cause 180 million Americans to lose their beloved private health insurance. Now, they're campaigning on this. Kamala Harris literally looked in the cameras about a month ago and said, yeah, I'd be in favor of doing away with all insurance companies. So, you want your health care, you can keep your health care. You like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Bullshit. At least Obama lied about that stuff, right? At least Kamala Harris, I give her credit. Where's my Willie Harris, man? At least she's looking you in the eye and saying, you like your health care? Too bad. We're getting rid of it if I'm up there. But make no mistake, let me just tell you, ladies and gentlemen, let me simplify this a little bit. Because they talk about Obamacare not working, and even Democrats know it don't work. You remember the rollout of the multi-billion-dollar website? We could have done a better website than Obama. Think about that, Jay, man. They paid like $1 billion to get that website out. Jesus, man. We were talking about a website, some work we're doing behind the scenes. I guarantee you I could get a couple of kids from like the Republican student Republicans at UF to build a better website for damn near free compared to what Obama did. But I say that to say this. The Obamacare was never, ever supposed to be successful. It was flawed from the beginning. The Republicans gave it to us because they never had a plan. McCain killed it when the Republicans, man, are to blame 100%. If you don't like Obamacare, it ain't the Democrats' fault because Nancy Pelosi, like I say, these progressives will tell you the truth if you'll just listen to them. If you'll just take them at their word, they will tell you the truth. She literally said, we have to pass it to see what's in it. When I heard that, I was thinking, that's exactly what the doctor told me the last time I had to give a specimen. You got to pass it to see what's in it. I can't just guess. I got to see it.
Like a good kidney stone.
Yeah. Well, did you hear the one about the guy, the doctor said he wanted a blood sample, a urine sample, a fecal sample, and a sperm sample? So the guy just dropped his underwear off. He figured that would be good enough. But I'm always trying
I said I did not want to hear that.
You didn't want to hear that? But Pelosi, she's like Pelosi. She said Pelosi, man. Yesterday everybody thought I was kidding around. I have a hard time with certain names. If it ain't Billy Bob or Billy Bass, I got a hard time when it's Booty Git or Butt Git or whatever, like we talked about yesterday. I don't mean any disrespect to the mayor of South Bend. Well, maybe not, but it's just me, takes me, loves me. I am, like Popeye said, I'm a salty dog. I am is what I am. But make no mistake about it, this whole thing, Obamacare was never intended to be successful. In fact, the Democrats torpedoed it because they want single payer. They want you to become dependent on it so they can snatch the rug out from under it, and you'll have to be dependent upon single payer. But make no mistake, the Republicans brought this to you in two ways. First, you had John Roberts, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, make up some nonsense that it was a tax, so therefore it would pass. You know that story, I'm sure. And then McCain, how many times did the Republicans vote in sham show votes to do away with Obamacare? But the one time they had a chance to actually do away with it, because if they'd have voted for do away with it, Obama would have vetoed it and it would have held up. I mean, get real. But the one time they had a chance to do away with it, John Walking Dead McCain killed it, and the Republicans had no plan. They did it for 8 years, and they had no plan for replacement, man. It is a shame, and I hate to admit it, but it is my brother and Republicans that are to blame for that. And Mitt Romney, King Swamp Rat, oh, by the way, I might as well mention King Swamp Rat, he's the one that created Obamacare in Massachusetts. Think about that. Republicans are developing a really great health care plan with a far lower premiums, costs, and deductibles than Obamacare. This is what Trump continued in tweet. He said, in other words, it will be far less expensive and much more usable than Obamacare. The vote will be taken right after the election when Republicans hold the Senate and win back the House. He's talking about 2020 when he wins re-election and they ride his coattails to win both the House and the Senate. Hold on to the Senate and win the House. Mr. President, that sounds really good to me. But I got to tell you, sir, I fear that you have more faith in the Republicans than I do, because I just told you why. I mean, we need to get rid of them. I'm with you, Mr. President, and he has a strategy. I'm going to explain it to you in just a moment. Let me check my time. Doing pretty good. The president's pledge comes days after the Justice Department endorsed a federal court ruling to eliminate the Affordable Care Act, because they eliminated the mandate that you have to do it. And so therefore that was what Justice Roberts used as an excuse to push it down on the rest of us down the throats. So that's been eliminated. Now they're appealing that, and several states are trying to uphold it. And the Trump administration, Department of Justice, has joined in with them, moving to invalidate the landmark health care law despite objections within Trump's orbit from Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar and Attorney General William Barr. The ruling by District Judge Reed O'Connor has suggested that the Obamacare statute, which has passed muster with the Supreme Court, was actually wholly unconstitutional. Now, with all due respect to that justice, let me just ask, how can that be? How can that be? The feds, now this is what the feds were doing with Obamacare. The feds literally put a gun to your head and forced you to buy something. That's what they did. They literally said, think about that, because when I say put a gun to your head, that's what the full power of the U.S. government, right? They're telling you if you don't do this, we're going to fine you and potentially put you in jail. Because remember, the first act of the administration under Obama, when Obamacare passed, it wasn't to hire healthcare professionals or advisors. And certainly it wasn't for web designers. But the first thing they did? They hired 15,000 IRS agents. I don't know if you know that, Jay. That's the first thing they did under the Affordable Care Act, was hire IRS agents. Look it up, Google it, but Google's of the devil, but I'm telling you the truth. And that ought to tell you all you really need to know. But they're putting a gun to your head and saying you got to buy this. Think about it. What else do they do that with? Can you imagine saying, well, you got to buy this particular car. You got to get the Yugo. You're talking about Russian collusion. You must buy a Yugo. What? Think it's the same thing? What's the difference, man? So this justice, how could he possibly say that it's unconstitutional to force you to buy something at the point of, I'm being sarcastic. Of course it's unconstitutional. It was unconstitutional from the very conceptual part of it, from the very beginning. But our Supreme Court, led by Republican Justice Roberts, made up some bullshit reason to make it pass muster. Now, in theory, now that the mandate has been overturned, that he won't have it, because it's going to go to Supreme Court. You know it is. And in theory, he won't have anything to stand on. I would not bet on that for sure. I would not bet on that. I would bet that he finds a way to squirm back into it. Trump's call to again put Obamacare's repeal on the table for Hill Republicans was seen as potential disaster in the making by GOP leaders. These people, these stalwarts of virtue, these guys that have, King Kong-sized balls, man. Yeah. Right. Disaster. It's disaster. They're standing by the president until he actually does something. Then it's like, run for the hills. They're just, think about this. The Republican rats like Romney, the new rat, he's King Rat, the old turtlehead McConnell, they're just trying to survive President Trump. They don't really even give a damn who the president is as long as they're not trying to drain the swamp. They just wait for their turn, pigs at the trough. That's all they really are. Our U.S. Senate is totally 100% corrupt. And I'm not saying every single member. I'm not even saying they're on the take. When I mean corrupt is they only care about holding on their own power. They really don't give a tinker's damn who the president is, unless it's Trump, by the way, because he's trying to actually make change, and that is something to be feared for sure. But it goes on to say here, and it was an invitation to Speaker Nancy Pelosi, California. This is what the Republicans are fearing, according to Politico, to pound home the issue once more as she plans to do it with a House vote this week, condemning the administration's decision not to defend Obamacare in court. Not to defend it. In other words, they join with the states. But Pelosi's pounding, man. Like I said the other day, they said Pelosi's shaking her fist. How do you know? Is she doing it intentionally? Could she just be going... man, I shouldn't mock that, King, but I'm scared, man. I'm scared of Plastic Woman. But think about this. Oh, my God, man. You listen to what Politico's saying here, that Republicans are scared. That's a news flash, right? But, oh, my God, let me ask you, Mr. President, I've been kind of on this kick all day, and I got to get, what are you doing? Mr. President, what in the hell, what are you doing? It's a disaster. Listen to the media and the Republicans. You know what President Trump is doing? He's winning. While the rest of these people are whining, he's winning. That's what he's doing. And let me just quickly explain this to you. President Trump, and I said this before on a show, I think last week, so go back and look at our podcast. There's a couple of ways to do it. One thing, I didn't mention this earlier, but if you're new to the show or if you've been listening a while, if you haven't gone directly to John Martin Talks Facebook page, liked it, and shared it with others, I would ask you to please do so. You can also watch any of our podcasts or videos on johnmartintalks.tv. And we got a swag store coming, by the way. I'm letting that out, the cat out of the bag. We're going to start putting a little swag because some of you have asked for it. So it's coming. Be patient. You can also go to our YouTube channel. It's John Martin Talks. Spell it all the way out. Keep liking it to the point that you don't have to put, but John Martin and Talks comes right up. That's what we're looking for. But right now, you still got to spell it all out. But let me just tell you what President Trump is doing. He knows. Do you really think? Now, I know some of you out there think that President Trump is a clown or whatever, but if you could put your Trump derangement syndrome aside for just a moment, just one little second. Do you really believe that Trump doesn't realize that it's impossible while Nancy Pelosi is Speaker or whoever would replace her if they're a Democrat to get anything through Congress that he's for? Do you really think he doesn't know that? He knows that. So then why is he bringing it up for this disastrous fight that old turtlehead, McConnell is talking about and everything else? Because he believes, at least he hopes, that the Supreme Court is going to strike this down and Obamacare is going to fall apart of its own thing, which it's going to. I told you the Democrats want it to fail because they want single payer. So if we elect more Democrats, we're going to have no private insurance. It's all going to be government-run health care, single payer. That's what's going to happen. Take that to the bank if we don't keep Donald Trump up there and we elect more Democrats. That's what's going to happen for sure, because that was the plan all along. But Donald Trump, in my opinion, his strategy is knowing that he can't win in Congress. He thinks it's going to fail from the Supreme Court, and then he's going to make the issue of saying, look, the Democrats mucked this all up. They would not work with me to reform it in any way, shape, or form, so we are left, and here's my plan. And he's going to put it out there at that point for the voters, and the Democrats are going to be left twisting in the wind. And the Never-Trumpers are so crazy about that, and the spineless or nutless Republicans can't even see it, man. They need you. There's another thing you could do for your congressman. If you have a Republican congressman, beyond giving them a set of truck nuts, invite them to watch John Martin talk so they'll know what the heck they're doing, because right now I don't think they have any idea. And let me check my time. I got time. In public and private, Republican leaders made clear they didn't want anything to do with the president's most recent maneuver. I love this, they begged Trump to back down and made their displeasure known to other administration officials as well. Can you see it right now, man? Do you really believe, old Turtle, Mr. President, he's begging you, Mr. President, and Trump going, there, my boy. You know, that's maybe, because Donald Trump got criticized for this. I just had an epiphany, Jay. You remember Trump got criticized for saying that he didn't want a dog in the White House?
Yeah.
Well, maybe he don't need one because he's got all these lapdog Republicans down there begging him. I mean, my little dog, man, I love my little dog. If I say the word, I'm not kidding you. If I say, she's smarter than me, but she'll get out there and I can't get her to come back inside, right? But if she hears me, I'll be saying, Lizzie, get in here. But if I say the word cookie, she come running. You know, it's all of a sudden cookie. She knows what that is. It's a treat, right? Can you imagine Trump, man? He said, that's why you don't need a dog in the White House. He's got all these rat dogs in there. He's going like, Mr. Trump, cookie. And I mean, that's what's happening, I guarantee it. And Trump is loving every minute of it. Winning while the others are begging and whining. Please, sir, please. Senate Republicans facing a tough electoral fight to maintain their majority in 2020 have refused to sign on to the new administration's drive before seeing the specifics, giving room to disavow any Trump proposal if it hinders his own political outlook. Man, these people got no shame. They are asking, this is the Republicans I'm talking about, they're asking to see the specifics of Trump's plan when they said they were going to repeal and replace Obamacare for 8 dadgum years, and they didn't even have a plan when Trump got elected because they thought Hillary was going to win. Let's face the fact that the Republicans, these never-Trumpers, these swamp rat Republicans like Mitch McConnell, I wouldn't be surprised if that son of a gun didn't vote for Hillary Clinton, to be honest with you. I mean, they didn't think President Trump had a cat's meow chance of winning. And so now they had 8 years to come up with a specific plan, and they couldn't do it other than get old zombie man walk. That was their plan. McCain rises like the phoenix from the ashes. Yeah, there it is. New health care. He probably could have.
We've solved health care.
But think about it. Now they have the audacity to ask for President Trump's specifics. Good Lord. The only thing I fear, let me tell you what I fear about this article, man. Here's what I fear about it. Because I've been chastising kind of politely, being sarcastic. I hope you realize that. Because like President Trump, man, I want you on my side of the wall. That's what my cup says, if people are wondering about that. But you know what I fear? I fear that we, and I'm talking about all of us here, that we, the American people, I fear that we won't have the stones to clean house come 2020. We need to reelect Donald Trump president. I mean, we absolutely do. I don't see anybody could even really argue that, but I know they will. But if you're a MAGA person, if you care about America first, making America great, keeping America great, We got to vote. We got to put President Trump back in. We got to look at like all these different votes. That's why we got to have votes even if we fail in Congress, because we need to identify the swamp rats on both sides of the aisle and get rid of them. So I just fear we won't have the stones to actually clean house. And that's what we need to do, because we need to reelect Donald Trump. But if we don't get rid of these never Trumpers, and let alone do I really have to say that we need to get rid of all these progressive Democrats? I mean, please, Democratic Party, get rid of these sons of guns. But that's the only thing I really fear, and I'm going to keep working on that. You know, we got to do our job, and if I can help in any way to get that done, get her done, that's what I'm going to do here at JMT. All right, let me tell you one thing, keeping on this fear deal. This is coming to you from the New York Times, man. See, I read a lot of these things so you don't have to. I get a kick out of when I'm Googling. This is a side note. I'm like, searching for these articles, and I use different things, and I'll come across the New York Times, and they'll put up, you have exceeded your articles for this week, and you must pay to subscribe. Like, I'm going to subscribe to the New York Times, man. I mean, you talk about being dumb. I'm not subscribing. Anyway, this is my subtitle. One thing the Dems don't fear is principles. You know why they don't fear them? Because they don't have any. And I'm talking, when I say this, let me just make this clear, because I haven't said this in a while lately. When I talk about Democrats, I'm not talking about all Democrats. There's a lot of good Democrats. In fact, this is something that hadn't gotten much publicity at all. And you might be the first time you heard this. They did a poll of the people that were actually in attendance at President Trump's recent rally in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And do you know that 30%, I mean, I had a hard time believing this, but apparently it's true. 30% of the audience that actually attended the event were Democrats. That's amazing. That's an amazing thing, and that is God. They're not repeating that because they're terrified of that. So when I say that to say, I'm not talking about all members of the Democratic Party. I'm talking about the people you have elected, like the Yahoo we're going to talk about now up there right now, that you've elected to Congress and to positions of authority, like in Chicago, and expect something to be different. It's going to be different. You're going to need a poop map. Believe that. You better contact San Francisco right away, find out how they did it. But I'm talking about the leaders they keep electing, because I'll say this, and then I'll move on to the story. Ask if you're a Democrat out there, and it breaks my heart because I grew up in the Democratic Party. Remember JFK said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country? One of the great statements, whether you like him or not, that was a great statement. How does that apply to the current Democratic Party? I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just asking for a friend. But one thing the Democrats don't fear is principle, because they don't have any. This is the actual article, New York Times. It just went poof. The strange aftermath of Virginia's cascade of political scandals. Chapman, I got enough time to cover some of this. More than a dozen state lawmakers filed onto the stage, summoned by the smiling leader of their state, Ralph S. Northam, the governor of Virginia. They have nothing to fear for this governor being up here. I don't know why they say they had anything. They don't have anything to fear from this Northam, unless, of course, their mamas are still alive. Which, like me and my buddy that's before me here, my mom's be 98 in May, and the Ward Scott, the professor, his mom's like almost 107. And I just worry I tell him all the time, you got to worry about your mama still being alive, because if, like in Virginia, the law they passed and the one they passed in New York, you can be clearly now aborted. The Democratic Party supports abortion after birth. And they didn't say when that limitation would be. So if your mama feels uncomfortable, she might say, I say my mama now, boy, I've had enough of you for 58 years. You're gone. So, hey, you ain't no man safe while the mama's still alive, according to the Democrats. On the governor's right, I love this part right here. On the governor's right were a handful of House Democrats who, as a group in February, said they were no longer confident in the governor because of his blackface, right? And on the left was mostly Republicans, including Speaker of the House Delegate Kirk Cox, who declared that Mr. Northam's ability to lead and govern is permanently impaired. So I'm thinking about, it reminds me of a song, clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, the Grim Reaper, stuck in the middle with you, because that's what this dude is, man. So on the stage were members of the Legislative Black Caucus, which called the yearbook photo, see that right there, that yearbook photo you're seeing now, disgusting, reprehensible, and offensive, and a complete betrayal because the dude's wearing blackface. Now, I'm not defending blackface, but I'm asking, okay, I'm asking my, some black Democrats in Virginia. And I say, I'm just asking for a friend. Why you fear Democrats? Why would you fear them? They only brought you slavery. They only brought you Jim Crow and the KKK. But fear them? I don't know why. Just be glad that this Northam guy isn't a nasty member of the Republican Party. Just be glad, because that group of people, those dirty sons of guns, brought you, the party itself was founded to oppose slavery. Wow. The truth will set you free sometimes. They were only founded to oppose slavery, won the Civil War, ended slavery, and gave black folks the right to vote. But why would you? So you got to be terrified of Republicans, but the people that brought you the KKK, woohoo! More power to them. Even so, Mr. Northam took out a pen at the event last week and signed bills to overhaul the state's foster care system. The lawmakers of both parties stood behind him, grinning and clapping. Well, let me just tell you, that's nothing new, because both sides grin and clap. Both sides have been grinning and clapping as the country slipped away for quite a while now. So that should not be a surprise. They've been doing that for a while, man. They just keep both parties at the top, want us all to be. To me, it's like a homecoming parade where you got Republicans on one side of the street and Democrats on the other, and they just hollering and shouting at each other while the parade of what used to be our grand old USA, the Republic we keep it, is just marching away. And we're not even seeing it. That's what they want. That's what the swamp wants, by the way. So here's this summation of what happened. According to the New York Times, in the space of a week, in early February, the public was stunned by revelations about each of the three highest statewide elected officials, all Democrats, by the way, the racist photo in the governor's yearbook, accusation of sexual assault against the lieutenant governor, and the other attorney general's appearance in blackface. Oh, by the way, while he was calling the other dude to be fired, protesters and news crews swarmed the State House. Calls for resignations came from fellow Virginia Democrats, Republicans, and even 2020 presidential candidates. Now, they're stunned about the blackface. Let me play something that they weren't stunned over. Can we play that?
I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother.
Yeah. So that's not stunning. The fact that the baby could be born and then... That's not stunning. But I love this part right here, and we're about out of time. I encourage you to look at this article because it shows you everything that's kind of wrong with the Democratic Party. But this is a woman, Natalie Draper, a librarian sitting at the back of this coffee house. I think she's a Democrat. It says, and then it just went poof. Talking about these scandals. It's like it never happened. Well, Ms. Draper, I hate to tell you, but welcome to the modern Democratic Party, man, because it's unbelievable. So Virginians, it says here, have various theories as to how this surreal normalcy could set in. So I asked the question, I guess there's no Patrick Henrys left in Virginia, is there? Remember Patrick Henry, Thomas Jefferson? Remember Patrick Henry? What was his famous saying that he had? What was it? I don't think that was it, really. Is that really it? Because there's a modern version of it, right? It's give me liberty or make the baby comfortable fall off with his head. That's the new slogan of the Democratic Party in West Virginia. Give me liberty or cut the baby head off, but make him comfortable first. But it says here, this last part, so some say the whole mess is so exhausting and embarrassing by the time the legislature adjourned on February 24th, the outrage had burned itself out. So I'll close the show with this question to you, man. Outraged. So what does it take to get the party outraged, the Democratic Party outraged? The fact that 2 million people are trying to bum rush or bus rush our border, that's not outrageous. The fact that the Democratic Party's been lying to black folks all along and really is the party that brought you to KKK and segregation and Jim Crow, that's not outrageous. The party that wants you to the jackass party that wants all of us to go back to riding jackasses, that literally wants to put us in the Stone Age again, that's not outrageous. The fact that the guy that's leading in the polls right now, you wouldn't even let alone with your child, Joe Biden, creeping on, I mean, that's not outrageous. I mean, the fact that Bill Clinton would show you a whole new meaning for a cigar, shove cigars up an intern in the Oval Office, that's not outrageous. The fact that the whole thing with the Mueller investigation, the whole fraud, the collusion, delusion was started with a bogus PP dossier paid for by Hillary Clinton, and we know the truth of that now, and they knew the truth from the beginning. That's not outrageous. So I ask again, what in the HE double hockey sticks would make you outraged if you are part of the Democratic base? I don't know. I'm being serious here. What would make you outraged? I guess if they were, the only thing I know that makes you outraged is the word Trump. So get used to it, because he's your president. And if I and dregs and deplorables like me and Billy Bob and us have anything to say about it, he'll be your president again. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the show today as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go directly to our Facebook page, John Martin Talks, like it, and share it with others. If you've done so, thank you. If you haven't, please do it. There's a lot of things we've got planned in the pipeline. More will be revealed. But above all else, ladies and gentlemen, have a blessed day.